This lesson is for lesson 10 in your math packet. It is on writing decimal numbers. There's some other, this is the page that we are going to be answering today. I've just chopped it up into its sections. So before we get into the lesson, I wanted to give you a chance to go ahead and get this out so that you can answer it with me. But before we actually start answering the questions that are in your practice book, I just wanted to review some things that we've talked about in the past. So over here on the left, you'll notice that I've written money in two different ways. The top one is in word form, and then the bottom three right here are in the decimal form, how we normally would write money. But I wanted to just again show you how these are all fractions of a dollar. They're part of a dollar, so we can write them as fractions. 5 cents. I brought this. Isn't this adorable, by the way? I have several pictures of animals that are unlikely friends because of our story Owen and Mazet. But anyway, I have this place value chart on all of the slides in hopes that it will kind of help just with understanding place value again. So if I think of how much 5 cents is, well, my units or my ones, remember this is just your ones place. I have, oops, that keeps happening. I don't have any full dollars, right? In 5 cents, that's just 5 cents. It's not, there's no dollar. So I'm just going to put a 0 there with my decimal. Now 5 cents, I don't have a dime. That's not yet even 10 cents. So nothing would be in my tenths place. And it's actually just 5/100ths of a dollar. So that's exactly how we write it as a fraction, 5/100ths. What about 62 cents? How would we write that as a fraction? Some of you might already know. In decimal form, okay, we've got 62, and then we just look at the place value. What place value is that 2 in? It's in the hundredths. So we have 62 hundredths. That's how we would write it as a fraction. 40 hundredths. Now look at this one, because we have a 4 in the tens place and a 0 in the hundredths, because it does have a 0 in the hundredths, so we could say this as 40 hundredths. But as I've said in previous lessons, that 0 right here does not change the place value. 40 hundredths is the same as 4 tenths, because think about it as in dimes. If I have 40 cents, that's 40 out of 100, right? 40 cents is 40 out of the 100 pennies. But it's also 4 dimes, which means it's 4 tenths of the dollar as well. The last one, I used 4, except in this case, I used it in the hundredths place. So we've got 0, 4. The 4 is now in the hundredths place, not in the tenths place as it was in the previous question or in the previous problem. So in this particular problem, we would have 4 hundredths, and there is no other fraction that we would be equivalent. Whereas this one we could write as two different ways. It could be 40 hundredths or 4 tenths. This one is just 4 hundredths, because in a penny we don't have any tenths. We can't convert that into tenths. All right, let's go ahead and get into our lesson. So on number 1 through 4, it says write a decimal number to represent the distance each person has traveled. Number 1, Aki has traveled 3 tenths of the distance. Okay, so just over here to the side, I'm going to write 3 tenths because I'm comfortable with fractions, so I'm just going to write it as it says it. And Stephen, okay, this is Aki, so I'm going to label that with an A. And Stephen has traveled 5 tenths of the distance. Okay. All right, so, but remember, we're not writing it as fractions anymore. We're writing these as decimals. So when I write Aki's distance, I have, again, my place value chart. It would be 0.3 because we're dealing with tenths. So Aki would be 0, again, I just put the 0 there, 0.3. Stephen, it's not a 3 in the tenths place anymore. It would be a 5, so that would just be 5 there. And we would write 0.5. Jose has traveled 25 hundredths of the distance, and Lakeisha has traveled 18 hundredths of the distance. So in this problem, we're no longer dealing with tenths, we're dealing with hundredths. So I'm just going to write these out to the side in a fraction form. So we've got 25 hundredths for Jose, label that, and Lakeisha was 18 hundredths. No, it won't let me write that 0 because of the way that I've written it. Let me just erase that, move it over. All right, so then we're going to convert those in from a fraction form into a decimal form. So this time we're dealing with hundredths. So this place value right here. So we're going to write the 25 though. We're going to put the 2 in the tenths place and the 5 in the hundredths. Oh no, it's not going to let me. Hang on. I got to move that. I got to change that. Send it back. Nope. Sorry. The front. I'm not sure why. I'm going to have to move this picture so that I can write. So I can write in it. Sorry about that. I thought I had everything ready, but I guess I did not. Dealing with mistakes and technology is fun. Okay, so in this problem, I've got 25. Come on. Now I'm erasing it. I'm not redoing this video. You can just count this as one of the mistakes. You can count how many mistakes I make and then let me know. So 25 hundredths. The 5 is going to go in the hundredths place. So I'm going to just write it as 0.25. Okay, don't try to stick a 0 in front of there and put the 2 in the hundredths place because that's not going to be 25 hundredths. You want the last digit in the place value that you're talking about. So in this case, we have the 5 and we're talking about hundredths. So we're going to put the 5 in the hundredths. And that's how we would write it, 0.25. Lakeisha. The last digit that we're talking about, we have 18, so the 8 is the last digit, so the 8 is going to go in the hundredths, and the 1 goes in the tenths. And we would write it as 0.18, yeah. And we would say that as 18 hundredths. Number 3, Yasir has traveled 7 tenths of the distance. So we're back to tenths again. We don't have to worry about hundredths, but it switches it up because then it talks about Danielle traveling 59 hundredths. So the first person, Yashir, traveled 7 tenths, which would be written like this. And Danielle is traveling in hundredths, so we would have 59 hundredths, which would be 0.59. Leah has traveled 8 hundredths of the distance, and Kwangsang, I don't know that that's right, has traveled 6 tenths of the distance. All right, so this one I'm going to spend a little bit more time because we have 8 hundredths. So we're going to go back up here, look at your place value chart. 8 hundredths. This is what it looks like as a fraction. And remember, just like I said up here, the last place value that you're talking about, that's where you're going to put that in the place value we're talking about. So we say this is 8 hundredths, so we're going to put the 8, which is the only place value we're dealing with, in the hundredths place, which means you have to have a place value in your tenths. You can't just leave it blank, so we have to put a 0 there. So Leah would be written as this, and we would say that as 8 hundredths. This guy, this fella right here that I can't pronounce his name, he's traveled 6 tenths, and so in this case we would just put the 6 in the tenths place, and that's all we would have to do, and we would write it as 0.6. Okay, moving on. This is just a comparison. We're just going to compare these two fractions using greater than, so the greater than, less than, or equal to. So number 5, we've got a 4 in the tenths place. We're going to go place value by place value on just the first few, and then I'm just going to go ahead and write greater than or less than or equal to, and you can check your answers with me. So we've got a 4 in the tenths place and a 0 in the tenths place. So, well, and the first thing we have to look at is the ones, and they're both 0, so that doesn't help us. So then we go to the next place value, which is the tenths. We have a 4 and a 0. Which one's bigger? The 4 is, so that would be a greater than. Number 6, we have nothing in our ones place. In our tenths place, we have a 3 and a 3. Now, you might be tempted to say, well, but we've got something in this place value. it's a zero. A zero is nothing. It's of no value. So it doesn't matter if there's a zero there or not. I could add a zero there. It's the same thing. So these are equal to each other. Number 7, we have 0 ones, 0 ones. We have 7 tenths and 2 tenths. I don't have to go past the tenths place value. This 4, it doesn't matter because 7 is bigger than 2. This is like saying I have 70 cents versus 24 cents. 70 cents is more than 24 cents, so this would be a greater than. I have 0 ones, 0 ones. I'm going to go to my tenths. I have 1 tenth and I have 8 tenths. 8 tenths is going to be bigger than 1 tenth. Okay, at this point I'm just going to go ahead and show you what the answers would be, and you can kind of follow along and hopefully you agree with me. Nobody can throw a flag on the field on this because, well, it's a YouTube video. Okay, I've got 6 61 hundredths versus 8 tenths, but I've got more tenths over here. I've got 6 tenths here and 8 tenths there, so this would be a less than. Greater than. Now in this problem, on number 11, we've got to go to the hundredths place because we've got a 1 in the tenths, a 1 in the tenths, so we got to go to our hundredths. And we're comparing 1/100th to 5/100ths. Sorry, not hundredths. Yep, hundredths. No, I was right. Ha! You can't count that mistake. Okay, number 12, we've got 2, and we might be saying, oh, those are equal. No, they're not because we have 0 tenths right here versus 2 tenths. So 2 tenths is more. It's like 20 cents versus 2 cents. These two equal. Number 14, 77 cents is more than 30 cents. And number 15, 60 cents is bigger than 6 cents. Think about it as money. That's easier for me to think about it. Number 16, greater than. Number 17, less than. Number 18, equal to. The 0 does not change the value. Number 19, 81 cents is greater than 50 cents. Number 20, 41 cents is greater than 39 cents. Number 21, 90 cents is greater than 9 cents. Number 22, we have 48 cents versus 60 cents. We just don't have the 0 behind there, but it's still 60 or 6 in the tenths place. Number 23, 53 cents is greater than 40 cents. And number 24, these are equal. The 0 doesn't change the value. Okay? And I think this is our last page for lesson 10. Is it? Oh my goodness, no, we've got a back page too. Okay, well I'm going to put that in a second lesson because this video is going to get quite long. Alright, these are word problems with decimal numbers. Carlos, I'm reading right here by the way if you're following along. Carlos has been vacationing for 1 week of his 10-day vacation. First of all, how many days is 1 week? Everybody shout it out. It's 7, right? 1 week is 7 days. So he's been traveling, if I wrote this as a fraction, 7 tenths of his vacation. And number 25 just says what decimal number represents the part of his vacation that is past. Well, he's already been vacationing for 7 tenths. So I just write that as a decimal, which is 0.7. Number 26, what decimal number represents the part of his vacation that remains? So he's already celebrated and vacationed for 7 days. How many days would be left of his vacation? 7, 8, 9, 10. There would be 3 days left. So written as a fraction, it would be 3 tenths. Not as a fraction, excuse me, as a decimal. I keep mixing those up. Okay, Jeremy. Now we're reading about Jeremy. Jeremy spent 3 quarters and 1 nickel at the school bookstore. All right, so right away, I'm just going to figure out how much that is because when it gives questions like this, it's probably going to want to know, first of all, how much money that is. So let's just figure that out. I've got 3 quarters. So 3 quarters, we've got 25 cents, 25 cents, 25 cents. How many cents is that, everybody? 75 cents, right? And then he's got a nickel. So we're going to add a nickel to that, which would equal 80 cents. I'm going to write that down here in my place value chart. Don't have any dollar bills yet, just 80 cents. So number 27 says, what decimal part of $1 did he spend? So I've already written it down here, 0.80. And you could just drop that 0 off at the end and put 0.8 because it would be the same thing. But as money, to me it looks better to just add that 0. What decimal part of $1 did he not spend? So we're trying to figure out how much more would he need to have a full dollar, basically. Well, how much do you have to add to 80 to get to 100? You would need 20 more cents. So he did not spend 20 hundredths of the dollar. He only spent 80 hundredths of the dollar. So he would have 20 cents left to spend to match the full dollar. It's a little, that question is a little confusing. Dana is planning, okay, we're right here now. Dana is planning to run 1/10 of a mile every day for 8 days. All right, I'm going to erase. So if you have not yet got these answers, I would go ahead and pause the video and get these down because I'm going to erase all my writing at this point. So Dana, oh Dana, she's running 1/10 of a mile every day for 8 days. So I'm going to go ahead and write 1/10. But she's doing it for 8 days, so I'm going to multiply it by 8. Now, hopefully this is kind of a review, but when I multiply that by 8, remember I'm just multiplying the top number by my whole number, so it'd just be 1 times 8. So it would be 8/10 would be how much she would run as a total amount. This would be the total amount she ran. This is how much she runs every day. And number 29 says, what is the total distance she will run in 8 days? Well, we've kind of already figured that out. It's right here, but it wants it as a decimal. So 8/10 written as a decimal, 0.8. Number 30, if Dana runs 1/10 of a mile each day for 2 more days. So we already had 8/10, and now we're going to add 1/10 of a mile, and then another 1/10 of a mile because it says for 2 more days. What will the total distance she runs over the 10 days? So if I add these together, I get 10/10. So what does that mean? 10/10 of a mile? So if I have if I break this up, and my mile is being broken up into tenths, and she's running 1/10 every day. But if she runs 10/10 of a mile, that's just 1 full mile. So I would answer that as 1 mile. Okay. Oh, we're not done. We have 31 through 36. Did I? Oh no, this is the whole page. All right, sweet. Hey, all right, we're getting through the whole lesson. Okay, number 31 through 34, it just says write the word name of each number. So it's how you would say that. So how would I say 31? The 1 is in the tenths place, so I would say 1/10. Make sure you add the TH. The TH shows that it's a part. We don't have a whole yet. 10, if I say 1/10, well, that just doesn't make sense. So number 32, we have 73 hundredths. So we would write out 73. I'm gonna run out of room here. Hundredths. Number 33, we have a 9 in the hundredths place, so we would say 9 hundredths. 34, we have a 5 in the tenths place, so that's how we say it, 5/10. Number 35 through 38, write a decimal number for each word name. Number 35 says 14 hundredths. 14 hundredths. Okay, we have 14 after the decimal. The 4 is in the hundredths place because it's the farthest, it's the place value that we're talking about. So we're going to put the 4 in the place value in the hundredths place. Number 36, 2/10. So we're going to put a 2 in the tenths place. So it would be like that. 8/10. We're going to put an 8 in the tenths place. 6 hundredths. So we're going to put a 6 in the hundredths place, which means we have to have a place value, or we've got to have a 0 as a place value holder in the tenths place, so we can put our 6 in our hundredths place. And that is it. That is lesson 10. So you made it through. You did a great job. Awesome. Yay! Celebration. Okay. Check out any other videos that you might need. My next one will be lesson 11. Talk to y'all later.